Your why is everything, and yet it's nothing by itself. Or why I'm a Cynic Re Sinek. Simon Sinek, in the Puget Sound about 10 years ago, recorded a brilliant TED Talk. It's been watched something like 36 million times on TED, a bunch of other times on YouTube and elsewhere. I calculated that if I had a penny for every time someone has watched Simon Sinek up here, I would have $1 million. That's a fantastic return on investment. Cynic has become a part of the lexicon of our industry, so much so, literally last week I was giving a presentation training class and talking about the difference between internal motivations and external communication and what people see. And one of the guys in the class, a contractor, he says, Ted, that sounds just like Simon Sinek's Y diagram. I literally started laughing in the middle of the class. So why has Cynic taken on so much? He's really captured something really well. He's captured about origin story and talking about what is it that you want to do? How do you want to change the world? And in the AEC industry, in this room, there are a lot of people who are really passionate. They really want to get done. Cynic also provides some really good insight into human psychology and how ideas are captured in the brain and move forward. So, thank you, Simon, for the idea in my language of sharing your soul and singing it out loud. Some people in the room might recognize this picture and the graphic. This is a piece of strategic planning process that I talk about, developed with Bill Strong, another fellow, presented here at PRC and National, and a bunch. And Cynic is so right. It's like your passion. That is your first step in strategic planning. And it really becomes core to sales and marketing tools. But I'm a Cynic Re Sinek because of what he says. He says, people don't buy what you do, but why you do it. Wrong. Cynic is wrong. I buy something because I need it. I buy something because I want it. I buy something because it fits the values that are important to me. How an architect works, how an engineer interacts. I buy something because what it says about me and shows about me. But when Cynic focuses on the why, he's making a mistake. It's not about you. So in what I just talked about there, and in those statements, what was the most frequent word? It was I. It was me. It wasn't you, and it most certainly wasn't your why. So I think in our industry, we're really at the risk of solipsism. Cynic's ideas have taken hold. There's so much good stuff about it. There's so much passion behind it. It draws out that passion. But he doesn't help us take that passion and shape it and articulate it in the owner's or the customer's language and in their need and in their values. So why is snappy and really cool, but it's not revolutionary. Remember mission, values, and vision? Cynic in AEC, I think what he's done is he's tapped into a lot of frustration with, frankly, a whole heck of a lot of really, really dull and unmotivating mission and value and vision statements. So call it why, call it mission, vision, values. I actually don't care. What I think is important for us and all of us in that room is that we get to the true passion internally and articulate it. So I was hired last year, really interesting firm in our region, multidisciplinary firm. Cynic's video had gone through the firm like wildfire. The principals and leadership had spent a lot of time in a lot of meetings talking about why, and they really weren't getting anywhere. So they brought me in and they said, Ted, we want you to help us develop our why. And we're not talking about mission and values, that we know, but we got to get to our why. So I sort of smiled and nodded my head, and then went ahead and did this exercise. Got a workshop together with all the shareholders in the firm. And a really pretty simple exercise that anyone in this room can do in a whole variety of settings. I had them tell stories about a moment on a project, either about themselves or acknowledging someone else, a moment on a project that expressed a value of the firm and talked about how it created success on the project. And so what came out of that, I was writing things down on the board while people were talking, and we had discussion afterwards. What came out of that were some further concepts, some new concepts they didn't have, some development of concepts they already had. And what I did is I took that, went off, edited their existing mission and values. It changed quite a bit. It was still kind of in essence the same thing. Brought it back, presented it to them. They're like, oh my God, Ted, you're brilliant, which frankly I love. But the important thing was it was their language. I was just editing them. I was just facilitating them. Anyone in our firms has the ability to do things like that. So Sinek is so convincing, and his examples are so cool. Like he talks about Martin Luther King and the March on Washington. I mean, incredible stuff. And what he gets us to is this point that, well, all we have to do is figure out our why, and the rest will come. But that's not wrong, because intrigue is not purchase. Intrigue is interest. Intrigue is, wow, I really like that architect's work. I want to interview him. Or, wow, that structural engineer, they had really interesting ideas on using both CLT and concrete. Intrigue is not purchase. Intrigue is appeal. And what you need to do is take that moment of appeal to the moment of purchase. So how you do this is in their language. So another recent workshop with a really different type of client. This is a company that is manufacturers reps for mechanical equipment. Very high dollar, high volume industry or company. And a bunch of guys that are kind of really interesting combination of gnarly construction people, engineers, and kind of hardcore salespeople and true salespeople. And they had some good internal stuff, but we're looking, okay, how do we express this externally? So here's the exercise I did with them, and it's another exercise people in this room can do. I broke them into groups. Oh, I got to tell you, we did this at a lodge on the top of, well, not quite the top of Mount Hood, but about 1,000 feet above Timberline Lodge. You could only get there by snowcat in the middle of winter. It's an incredibly awesome place. Highly recommend it as a retreat location. So anyway, I took this group and I split them into small teams. And each team I assigned a specific audience. So audience of a client, audience of a potential employee, an audience of a potential prime, because like with a lot of us in the room, there's a sort of complexity of prime and sub-relationships, and actually audience of a competition. Some of you may have heard me say, I think your strategy of what your competition thinks about you is one of the core pieces of brain strategy. So these groups went off, and they came back, they presented their elevator speeches. Elevator speech comes from the dot-com era, maybe a bit old. The idea is that you're trying to meet with a venture capitalist and you can't get a meeting, but all you've got is the time from the lobby up to their office on the 56th floor. And so in that time in the elevator, you have to tell them what's your company, what it does, how it's different from the competition, and what value it brings to the marketplace. So I had these groups, these guys, come back and give elevator pitches. I then taped them, like I'm being taped right now. We looked at the tape as a group, and similar to the other exercise, language comes out, because when you get people to focus on the specific audiences, they're really thinking about it in their terms. So that's where the Cynic piece, he doesn't do any of that. So you've got to take it to their language. So I have a diagram I want to talk about. Cynic drew his diagram and I want to draw mine. So Cynic talks about why. And what I'm saying is why is really another word for mission, values, and vision. And then what I'm talking about today is you have different audiences that you're talking to. Clients, employees, potential employees, competitors, peers, whoever those audiences might be. Those audiences, they have their distinct values and they have their distinct needs. And what we have to do that Cynic doesn't do is take our internal passion language and take it through these audiences and understand and talk about it in language that's important to them. And at the end of the day, what that is brand strategy. Brand strategy is the external articulation of your internal why, specific to the audiences that are important to you and that are buying your services. So, TED's max to the F. Simon Sinek is great. He's really great for getting people to think about their passion and get to the most meaningful point of their existence, of their professional existence. Cynic is not great for helping us as marketers with the day-to-day take that passion and take it to the marketplace in a way that customers value and will buy. So I talked about an exercise you can use internally to help develop that internal language. Talked about an exercise you can use externally to help get to the audience, and hopefully creating for you and the audience tools for that next inevitable time someone comes up to your desk and says, wow, I just saw this amazing thing on YouTube. We've got to talk about our why. So you now have the tools to take that piece of interest and to make it something powerful and interesting. I want to close with my incredible regret that I am not there in person. For some reason, I was not able to convince my back doctor that drinking lots of good Napa Red was a really good therapy. So I am taping this instead. The part I'm really missing is the dialogue. So please email me, tell me if you agree, tell me if I'm totally wrong. I'd love to hear from people in the audience. Thanks a lot.